Ayan.
Wala. Hindi.
Wale. Ay,
Wala kasi.
nakalagay starting soon muna. Wait, kasi hindi ko pala inopen yung ano. Wait. Chill lang tayo. Chill lang tayo, okay?
Okay.
Saan na yun? Open.
Kasi
Diba?
naka-tap na siya pero naka-be right back lang siya.
Ayan. Yan, ganyan talaga ang gusto nating mangyari. Wait.
Okay po.
Okay. Kasi ino-open ko pa. Ako ang may problema. Sinend ko sa'yo. Ako naman, hindi ko inopen. Tama ba yun, Patrick? Ako ang hindi nag-open. Okay. Uh, uh, okay. Open Sesame. Okay. So, Violet yung atin ngayon, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Violet na ang ating topic ngayon. Slideshow. Alright. Okay. So, you should see something violet on your live stream also. Hopefully, that is it. Okay. So, nandito na tayo ngayon. We're moving fast-paced na class. Gram positive naman tayo ngayon. Bacilli in this case. And since we're starting with gram-positive bacilli, of course, we can't forget about Clostridium species and the Bacillus species. Di ba may shortcut tayo kanina? May shortcut tayo last week. All bacilli are gram-positive except all organisms or all ano ba yun? All rods are gram negative except for ang dami nun, di ba? So, ito na yung pag-uusapan natin. Sila na yon. Okay? Let's start first with the spore formers. Okay? So, there are several tests that you can do to differentiate spore formers. And that is on the initial side, we do the catalase test. Di ba nakita nyo? Pati sa mga spore formers, catalase test pa rin tayo bumabalik. Okay, so gram stain, we want to identify what the organism is. Is it cocci or bacilli? 'Di ba? After that, we do catalase test. Nakita nyo, class? Maski yung gram negative, 'di ba, kina-catalase. Hindi nyo napansin. Now, in this case, because we're talking about spore formers, you're obviously going to see a spore in the initial gram stain, gram-positive organism, and then you perform catalase test if it's a spore former. If the spore former is gram-positive, is catalase positive, most probably that belongs to the family Bacillus. Okay? Capital B Bacillus. And if it's gram-negative, obviously it's going to be the other one, which is Clostridium. Okay? Clostridium. Clear? Clear ba tayo? In this point forward, hindi na ako magtatanong, class. Tuloy-tuloy na tayo, class, para mabilis matapos. Let's talk about Bacillus species. Now, Bacillus species have all of them are motile, except for Bacillus anthracis. Okay, Anthrax bacilli. Okay, we'll come back to that guy later. We'll move on to the next one. The other term for Bacillus anthracis is Anthrax bacilli, and it causes wool sorters disease. The wool sorters disease is the pulmonary type. We also have the gastrointestinal anthrax and the cutaneous anthrax. The pulmonary type is the bioterrorism form of anthrax. Ito yung ginamit nila dati. Okay? Hindi ko alam kung Al-Qaeda yung gumamit, pero there was a terrorist group that used this. Okay? And mind you, it was a Filipino who invented the best prevention method to avoid the pulmonary type of anthrax or the wool sorters disease. Okay? By the way, class, don't forget, Bacillus anthracis is an organism associated with bioterrorism. Okay? So be mindful of that one. I can't remember which terrorist group did that, but um, I'm very much certain it was a Filipino who developed that fume hood box to sort mail, so to speak. All right, now there are characteristic chains of Bacillus anthracis, and it resembles a bamboo pole or boxcar. Okay, and we also have to talk about the spore. The location of the spore is centrally located. Okay, if it's centrally located, I am almost certain it is Bacillus. Okay. Now, there are pathologic determinants when we talk about Bacillus anthracis, and this includes the capsule again and anthrax toxin. Okay? And what makes it easy to be demonstrated is using staining techniques. You could either use gram stain, you could use the McFadden stain, or immunofluorescent stains. But I mean, working in a microbiology lab for quite some time now, gram stain is still for me the best. Okay? Ngayon lang ako natututo gumamit tong immunofluorescence actually after almost 10 years of working in the laboratory. Dati hindi ako marunong mag-focus ng immunofluorescence na fluorescence microscope. Kaya ngayon lang ako natututo kasi nga meron na kaming acridine orange stain at saka oramin rhodamine. Pero before I never even dreamed of looking at the fluorescent slides. But anyways, let's move on to the characteristic colonies produced by Bacillus anthracis. Don't forget the medusa head colonies because it has a beaten egg consistency on blood agar plates. The string of pearls is usually the consistency with MHA with penicillin. Okay? Muller-Hinton agar with penicillin. Okay? It produces that string of pearl appearance. So again, medusa head, if the organism is described as a medusa head, or if the colonies are described as medusa head colonies, don't even look at the choices or the other choices. If you see Bacillus anthracis, select that answer. Okay? Now, we also have to differentiate gram stain morphology of Bacillus anthracis on other specimens. If it's from a patient sample, it will have an encapsulate, and it is encapsulated, but in culture media, you'll see it as bamboo pole. So be mindful. Some specimens, they look different when you take it from a patient sample, like for example, a direct wound swab. Okay? That's where you see the encapsulated appearance of it. So you won't see the bamboo pole or the what do you call this? The boxcar appearance. You'd see that when you culture it, and then you look at it in the microscope with your gram stain. Okay? Now, we also have what we call PLET. PLET stands for polymyxin lysozyme ethylenediamine tetraacetate. Okay? Ethylene diamine tetraacetate, sir, parang familiar. EDTA yan, class. Okay, EDTA. Okay? And with this one, the appearance of Bacillus anthracis will have a beaten egg white appearance. Okay? Sa plet mo lang siya makikita yung egg white appearance. Blood agar, you'll see medusa head, plet, beaten egg white appearance. Colonies. Okay? Now, we also have to look at the other media, which is gelatin media. Now, in gelatin media, Bacillus anthracis looks like an inverted fear tree. Ano yung inverted fear tree? Christmas tree. Okay? Inverted Christmas tree. Kasi stab siya. Gelatin stab ang tawag namin doon. Okay? Another test that we can use to identify as Bacillus anthracis from animal carcasses is what we call Ascoli test. The Ascoli test is basically precipitation at the point of contact. Okay? Precipitation at the point of contact. Okay? Next. We also have to talk about the bacillus that is the bacillus species that is associated with food poisoning, and that is Bacillus cereus. Okay? Bacillus cereus has two types, the emetic type and the diarrheal type. The emetic type is usually because of the preformed toxins in fried rice, or hence the term the fried rice bacillus. Okay? The diarrheal form of this one is mainly from meat and sauces. Okay? So preformed toxins in fried rice, hence the term fried rice bacillus. That's where you get a lot of vomit. Okay? Emesis is, in colloquial terms, is vomiting. Okay? Or barfing. Okay? When you barf, you are basically doing emesis. You are the condition that you're doing in scientific terms is emesis. Okay? Emetic. Okay? Now, let's move on to the test used to differentiate bacillus species. Ang dami, class. 4. Catalase, lecithinase, motility, and hemolysis on MAP. Now remember, Bacillus cereus is beta hemolytic. Sa hemolysis ako usually, hindi ko sinusunod tong CLM na to. CLM ako, hemolysis, kasi yun yung una kong makikita sa plates eh. Okay, mamaya na ako dyan sa CLM. Hemolysis muna ako. Okay? Bacillus anthracis is gamma hemolytic, meaning there's no hemolysis seen. Bacillus cereus is beta hemolytic. Every test that we're going to talk about, CLM, will test positive for Bacillus cereus. And because Bacillus anthracis is the only bacillus that is immotile, it will test positive for catalase and lecithinase, but not positive for motility. Clear ba tayo doon, class? Hindi ko pinapansin muna yung ibang test. CLM ang shortcut ko sa kanya. Pero ang una kong tinitingnan muna is hemolysis pattern. Lalo na kung nakakita ko ng centrally located spore. Okay? Next, let's move on to penicillin susceptibility test for Bacillus anthracis versus Bacillus cereus. Bacillus anthracis will test sensitive to penicillin, whilst Bacillus cereus is resistant. Ayan na ang shortcut resistant. O diba? May res na sila doon. Ras lang yun nandito eh, kaya wala tayong dyan. Resistant, R-E-S. O diba? Cereus. Okay? Next, let's move on to the common laboratory contaminant. The bacillus that is a common laboratory contaminant. This is also known as Bacillus subtilis, also known as hay bacillus. Okay? And then, bacillus that where the following drugs are derived from, Bacillus polymyxin and bacitracin actually is from Bacillus polynyxa, while bacitracin comes from Bacillus licheniformis. Okay? Nice to know. They don't usually ask this, but if they do, all of the following are true about Bacillus species. You know that Bacillus, some organisms of Bacillus are actually antibiotic producers. Okay? So ilang beses na natin narinig yung bacitracin na yan. Sa Bacillus licheniformis lang pala galing yan. Okay? Now, Bacillus species used as a control organism for mosquito larval systems is Bacillus thuringiensis. They don't usually ask this in the board exams, but it is nice to know that they can be used as mosquito larva, control organisms for mosquito larva. Okay? Now, we're done with the, I forgot to mention, dagdag natin, class. Bacillus subtilis var niger and Bacillus globularis. These are organisms that we use for, for what? Biological indicators. Okay? Bacillus var niger and Bacillus globularis. So ano yan? Ano yan, sir? Ano naman pakialam namin dyan sa mga yan? Biological indicators, class, hindi lahat sa atin magme-medtech fully. Yung iba sa atin magtatrabaho as members ng CSSD. And that's okay. Okay? Ano yung CSSD class? Sa Central Sterilization Department. It pays well, class. Sa Qatar, class, 100,000 ang sahod ng kaibigan ko, taxless yon sa Qatar. Okay? So sa CSSD siya, hindi siya nagtuloy as medtech. Nagtrabaho siya as what? As a CSSD personnel. Healthcare din sila, pero sila naman yung may kinalaman sa mga what do you call this? Sterilization ng mga ginagamit sa ospital. So, class, okay? Gamit nila yan as biological indicators yung dalawang yan. Nakalagay yan sa, yung spores ng mga organism na yan, nakalagay lang sa maliit na vial. Tapos binabato lang nila yan dun sa loob. Okay? So, pwede yan in tape form or pwede yan in vial form. Okay, yung dalawang yan. Okay? Anyways, let's move on to the next slide, which is Clostridium. Okay? Hoy, ba't nasa Thuringiensis pa rin tayo? Okay. Bacillus, Clostridium species. We have two toxicogenic species, Clostridium tetani and Clostridium botulinum. Okay? Patrick, paki-message ako sa Facebook pagka ano ha. Or miss call mo ako sa Facebook kapag time na tayo. Okay?
Sige, sir.
Okay, so we have two species that are toxicogenic, Clostridium tetani and Clostridium botulinum. Okay? And there are unique, and then we have another one, which is Clostridium perfringens, that has 4 unique characteristics. It's non-motile, it can ferment sucrose, it exhibits double zone of hemolysis, and it is the only one that is encapsulated. Okay? Now, please don't forget that there is a sporangia, a sporangia or a sporulating body for Clostridium species. But there are only 2 organisms under this one that don't have it. It's Clostridium perfringens and Clostridium bifermentans. Okay? And then, because we're talking about the general characteristics of Clostridium, mali ang spelling, Clostridium. Ayan, Clostridium. Next slide na tayo. Because we're talking about the general characteristics of Clostridium, we also have to talk about the species that cannot ferment lactose. And that includes Clostridium septicum and Clostridium perfringens. Please don't forget, paulit-ulit kong sinasabi ang Clostridium perfringens na yan. No? Siya na yung merong non-motile, can ferment sucrose, double zone of hemolysis, encapsulated, has no swollen sporangia, and we mentioned that one earlier again. Organisms that cannot produce Clostridium species that cannot ferment any sugar is Clostridium tetani. Glucose is Clostridium tetani and Clostridium histolyticum. Hindi histolytica ha, histolyticum. Okay? The only Clostridium species that cannot ferment any sugar is Clostridium tetani. Okay? So karamihan sa kanila is a sugar fermenter. Okay? Next. The weird part about a certain species of Clostridium is that one species is aerobic, actually. Majority of the species of Clostridium of medical importance is anaerobic, but Clostridium histolyticum is the only one that is considered to be aerobic in nature. Okay? Now, let's talk specifically about, we're done with the general characteristics. Let's talk specifically about Clostridium tetani. Other terms associated with Clostridium tetani is that it is the tackhead, lollipop, or tennis racket bacilli. Okay? This is due to the location of the spore. The location of the spore is terminal. Okay? Tackhead, lollipop, tennis racket bacilli because of the terminally located spore. There are two toxins released by Clostridium tetani. Okay? The two toxins is tetanolysin and the tetanospasmin. Tetanolysin is a hemolysin and tetanospasmin is a neurotoxin. So that this is a when you say something is a neurotoxin, it targets the nerves. Okay, neurotoxin, or it inhibits a certain part of a certain function of the nerves. The mode of transmission of Clostridium tetani is usually entry through wounds and open punctures. Kaya nga 'di ba naririnig nyo lagi, common misconception is yung kapag ka nakatapak ka ng pako na class, na puno ng kalawang. Okay? But that's not the only way you can do that. For example, nasabugan ka ng bomba. Labas ng lamang loob mo, lahat ng sugat mo is exposed sa madlang people, 'di ba? So let's say for example nasa Saudi Arabia ka, nakatapak ka ng mina. Okay, naglalakad ka doon for example, pa-Snapchat ka, hi guys, nandito nagti-TikTok ka, ganun ka, hi guys, nandito ako sa Saudi Arabia, tapos kaboom, nasabugan ka. Okay? So, that includes the dirt. Okay? So, mag-aerosolize yung mga dirt. And then, in that dirt, there would be Clostridium tetani spores. And that happens to come inside one of your wounds. The many wounds that you've sustained during that fateful day na nag-Snapchat ka tapos nakatapak si Patrick ng mina. Diba? Ganon. Ewan ko kung nagsa-Snapchat ang mga Pinoy. Pero kasi sa Saudi, ganun yung mga nangyayari. So, usually they would give anti-tetanus. Maski yung masugat ka nga lang ng scissors, diba? Tapos nagpunta ka, tapos sinabi mo na may kalawang. Diba? Bibigyan ka ng anti-tetanus. Or if you're far away from San Lazaro, bibigyan ka ng i-recommend ka na pumunta ka ng San Lazaro. Anyways, that's what happens to people who get open wounds. They could get Clostridium tetani. Okay, so that's why, and that's not your fault. Clostridium tetani spores could be everywhere. Okay, hindi lang siya galing sa pako na may kalawang. Okay, class, next. The unique ability of Clostridium tetani, based on its ability to cause a disease, is that these are organisms that don't leave the portal of entry. They only release the toxins. Hindi sila umaalis sa portal of entry. Kaya kakaiba sila. So usually ginagawa ng mga doktor, for example, malala talaga na yung tetano ng pasyente. Let's just go and amputate that particular part of the body. Or let's just remove a big chunk of meat from the infected part. Mga ganun yung ginagawa nila. Okay? Ano to? Naka-text mo. Okay. Okay? So yun yung kakaiba kay Clostridium tetani. Hindi sila nagka-transfer, hindi sila gumagalaw-galaw, di ba? Nandun lang sila, I'll just produce the toxins. Bahala ka dyan maloka. Ganun. Okay? So mag-spasm ka and everything. Okay? What is immediately done to puncture wound to avoid tetanus? Obviously, you have to administer anti-tetanus toxin. Okay? Now, we'll talk about the appearance of Clostridium tetani. The hemolytic pattern is beta hemolytic, and the smell of the colonies has a bird flesh odor. Sunog na karne. Okay? There is also terminologies that we have to remember, especially when we're talking about tetanus. Okay? Tetanus. Tetanus is associated with Trismus and Rhizus sardonicus. Christmas is known as lockjaw, and Rhizus sardonicus is what you call the peculiar smile or devil's grip. Yan yung may picture yan actually dito, but hindi lumalabas. But anyways, let's continue with the next organism, Clostridium botulinum, otherwise known as canned goods bacilli. Okay? There are two types of botulism, by the way. There's what you call food, or the classical, or the wound botulism, which is basically caused by the ingestion of the toxins, and infantile botulism, where you ingest the organisms itself or the spores of the organisms. Okay? There is a classic sign for patients with botulism. For classic botulism, you get flaccid paralysis. For infantile botulism, you have what you call the floppy baby sign. Okay? So floppy baby, yung parang wala lang, nakalawlaw lang yung baby. Okay? Parang walang energy, hindi makulay ang buhay niya. 'Di ba? Parang hindi siya magana. Okay? Flaccid paralysis. Let's talk about Clostridium species based on antibiotic associated with antibiotic-related pseudomembranous colitis. This is something that you will keep on hearing because it is now a trend to test this. Clostridium difficile. Okay? Right now, we don't culture Clostridium difficile anymore because we have ELISA techniques or chromatography techniques to detect it. We can also use Clostridium difficile DNA using PCR to detect this. But in the olden times, they use CCFA medium, which is cycloserine, cefoxitin, fructose agar. And from the name itself, it is an organism that ferments fructose. But what causes antibiotic pseudomembranous colitis? Antibiotic-related pseudomembranous colitis. Well, basically what happens is that you keep on drinking antibiotics, and everybody has a certain amount of Clostridium difficile in their body. Okay? Everybody has that. But the moment you overdose or you keep on drinking antibiotics, the gut flora dies. Dies in the normal gut flora that you have in your gastrointestinal tract dies, and the only thing that remains is Clostridium species. And when they proliferate, they form a pseudomembrane in your large intestine, much like the membrane that's produced by Bordetella pertussis, but only it's in the intestinal tract. Okay? So that's what happens with people who keep on drinking antibiotics without the prescription of a physician. Okay? And if anybody on the chat knows how they treat it now, please chat right now. I'll give you guys a $10. I wouldn't say gift card. I'd send $10 to you. What do you think is the current mode of therapy for Clostridium difficile infections? Sige nga. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Walang nakasagot. Stool transplants. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. I know Kadiri. Kadiri class. Stool transplant people. Ang gamot sa Clostridium difficile. Okay? Yes. The hospital that I'm working in right now, they perform stool transplants. I am not kidding you guys. Pwede po mag-donate ng stool, yes. Dadaan kasi same proceedings with a blood donor, right? Sexually transmitted diseases, anything that can be transmitted to the stool. And if you don't believe me, I know Kadiri ang baboy, pero yes, they do it. And you know what? You could get paid $500 for 1 liter of your stool. I am not kidding. Girl, I'm not kidding. Sumakimasim yung itsura ni Channel, no? Parang gusto ko makiat nung kinain ni Channel, no? Girl, pag tingnan nyo sa YouTube, the hospital I'm working in right now, they do that. Okay. I thought that was a new therapy. But apparently, a lot of people are infected with Clostridium difficile, or they have pseudomembranous colitis. So yun. You could get paid like $500 every week just for donating your stool. Kasi syempre kailangan, ano ka, donor ka na. Imagine mo na baka lang, no? Baka lang yun na yung trabaho mo. Grabe. Pero may mga dietary ano yan. Nakita ko yung brochure, ang haba, ang daming requirements. Siyempre, hindi ka lamang basta-basta lang magta-transplant ng tae mo sa ibang tao, di ba? Pero yes, it does happen. Kahit tanongin nyo si Sir Marco ninyo. Kasi kinuwento ko yan sa kanya dati. Nag-send pa ako ng studies. But anyways, let's move on to another topic. Kadiri, di ba? Clostridium perfringens. And malay nyo kayo yung mga medtech na magtatrabaho na mag-i-screen dun sa tae ng mga pasyente for diseases. Kasi may department kami dito na ibang trabaho ng mga medtech nila. Mag-test lang ng diseases ng donors. Okay? So anyways, let's continue. Clostridium perfringens. Bacillus aerogenus capsulatus is the other name for Clostridium perfringens, not to be confused with Bacillus mucosus capsulatus. Okay, it is the causative agent of gas gangrene or myonecrosis. Gas gangrene. Okay, there are three pathogenic determinants for Clostridium perfringens. It's lecithinase, collagenase, and necrotizing toxin. From the name itself, you already know that it will test positive with collagen assays and lecithin, right? But you have to remember alpha toxin also. The term alpha toxin refers to lecithinase. Okay, that makes the organism elaborate its toxins. Okay. There are several specimens used for the diagnosis of gas gangrene. That's on the next slide or the next topic. You can use the wound discharge, you can use pus, or you can use actual tissue. Okay. In our laboratory, what we do is tissue quantification. The code is tissue quantification. Okay, we chop up the tissue and we dilute it several times, and that's how we compute for the bacterial count per gram of sample. We do tissue quantification. I didn't even know that they do that, but for the purpose of if for example we actually grew Clostridium perfringens for the diagnosis of gas gangrene, that information is valuable for physicians. That's why we rarely get these cases where we get tissue quantification instead of routine tissue sample cultures. Okay. Next, we have the characteristic hemolytic pattern of Clostridium perfringens. It's the only one that has double zone of hemolysis, double zone of complete hemolysis, by the way. And then it also has a specific appearance when you inoculate it in milk media. And it has what you call stormy fermentation. And again, it looks like a bunch of clouds. Okay? The double zone of hemolysis, by the way, class, we're coming back to the double zone of hemolysis. It is caused by what you call theta toxin. The inner hemolysis is made up of is complete hemolysis, and that's what we call the theta toxin. The outer ring of the hemolytic pattern is brought about by the incomplete toxin, which is lecithinase, also known as the alpha toxin. Okay? Now, let's talk about enzymatic tests. So there are two enzymatic tests for Clostridium species. Lecithinase is mostly for Clostridium perfringens, as we've mentioned before. Lipase is Clostridium botulinum. Okay? Sugar fermentation tests can also be done on Clostridium perfringens, but there's only two sugars that we usually test for, lactose and galactose. So Clostridium perfringens will will ferment lactose and glucose, and everybody else will not. Okay? Clostridium botulinum is negative for both, while Clostridium difficile and Clostridium tetani will only ferment glucose. Okay? I want you guys to remember Pebot. Pebot D. Okay? Parang yung bebot ng ng Black Eyed Peas. Ganyan yung naalala ko sa kanya. I make neural connections so I can remember these things. So pebot ang sabi ko dati. And then lactose, glucose. Everything else is positive for glucose except for Clostridium botulinum. Everything else is negative for lactose except for Clostridium perfringens. Yun yung lagi kong pebot D. Okay? Yung kanta ni Apple the App ba yun or ng Black Eyed Peas. Yun yung ko sa kanya memorize ko. And I know it's an old thing. Yeah, you guys can find out. You can make your own mnemonics, but that for me that's how I remembered it. Pebot D. Okay. The demonstration of alpha toxin is done on what media? We use the egg yolk media, and we observe for what we call Nagler's reaction. Nagler's reaction is characterized by a halo opacity around the colonies. And precipitation of the colonies with antitoxin, no precipitate. On colonies without antitoxin, you'll see precipitate. Okay? There are antigenic groups also for the gas gangrene producers of the gas gangrene groups of Clostridium perfringens. And again, it's easy, A, B, C, D. Those are the things that you need to remember. The groups A and E produce lecithinase, and group A is the only one that is related to human gas gangrene. Okay? So bilugan nyo lang si A and E. A and E has lecithinase. A is the only one that is related to gas gangrene. The other ones, negligible. Do they ask this in the board exams? I have not seen it, but it is important that you remember it because I've seen it every time. I've seen it in every lecture about spore formers. Okay? So we have 3 more minutes. Hopefully we finish Clostridium. Clostridium, what do you call this? The other Clostridium species associated with gas gangrene is Clostridium noivii. Okay? We can also associate malignancies from a certain species of Clostridium, which is Clostridium septicum. And there are 3 types of malignancies: breast cancer, colon cancer, and leukemia. Clostridium septicum. Okay? That is the end of our discussion. Hindi ko na sinama yung Corynebacterium at saka Listeria. Kasama dyan ang Corynebacterium, Listeria. Okay? Ang hindi lang, lahat ng gram-positive isasama nyo except lang sa Curthia rothia. Okay? I also sent Patrick a copy of the Bacteriology lecture. Okay? Ang hindi makakapasa, magiging stool donor na lang ang career. Okay? Magdodonate na lang ng stool. Okay? Pero kailangan alamin muna kung paano makapunta ng US. Kasi sa US lang ako nakarinig na ginagawa yun. Maski sa Japan, medyo off sa kanila yun eh. Okay. Mataas ang sweldo, di ba? Naghahanap na, gusto kong malaman, mahaba kasing listahan, class. Okay? Pero malaki siya, lucrative business siya. Imagine mo, uupo ka lang, tapos jejerpax ka lang. Meron ka ng pera, di ba? Stool donor. Okay? Anyways, that's the end of our discussion. So everything that I discussed, what I said to Patrick earlier, yung hindi ko diniscuss lang na, ano yun, sensitivity at saka trends in bacteriology. Hindi ko na isasama yung Malditoff at saka yung ano. Confidential po ba? Ikaw, bahala ako yung pagkalat mo na trabaho mo, ano. Jumerpax lang. Ganun. Ikaw, bahala, Amanda. Interested si Amanda.
Share box para makapag.
Parang interested si Amanda. Ganun na ba kahikaho sa pera, Amanda?
Hoy, Patrick, tinanong ko lang.
Sa Pilipinas, ano yan, class? Ganito ha, class. Sa Pilipinas, hindi yan mangyayari. Kasi sa Pilipinas, ang napansin ko, bihira lang yung may problema sa antibiotic resistance at saka antibiotic overuse. Alam niyo kung bakit? Mahal ang antibiotic sa Pilipinas, di ba? Bihira lang yung nakaka-afford. Sa Pilipinas, nung nandiyan lang nagtatrabaho ako dyan sa Pilipinas class, malaking issue na yung isang tumubo na MRSA once a month. Malaking issue na yun. Yung naluloka na ang Infection Control Committee nun. Okay? So, malayong mangyari yan sa Pilipinas kasi mahirap na bansa ang bansa natin. Diba? Marami pa tayong kababayan na although hindi informed sa mga ganyan, hindi makabili ng antibiotics. Kaya class, that is the end of our discussion. Okay? So meron pa tayong listeria class. Kailangan maalala nyo si listeria, kailangan nyo maalala si erysipelophthis russopathiae, yun, di ba? Yung mga erysipelas. And then, ayan na, tumawag na si Patrick. Ibig sabihin, tapos na ang aking lecture. Okay? So yun, meron pa tayong Corynebacterium class. So, yung mga yun, hindi ibig sabihin na hindi ko diniscuss, hindi kasama. I always tell you guys that you come in with the assumption that you come into this class with the assumption that you already know everything. All you need to do is to be reviewed for your exams. Okay? And with that in mind, I hope you guys have a wonderful week because the next time that you see my presence is not it's not really myself, but more so my exam. So Patrick, alam mo na ha. Sino pa yung mga naging students ko dito? Alam nila kung paano ako gumawa ng exam eh. Raise your hands if you've been my students. Ayan.
Pumapasa lang kami dahil sa plus.
Sa plus, no? Very ngayong napansin nyo, wala akong plus, di ba? Wala akong plus na pinabibigay. Ang meron lang plus sa inyo si Patrick kasi siya yung moderator namin. Okay? But anyways, same pa rin yun. Kung anong sinabi ko, yun ang discussion. I'm not sure kung magra-rational ako sa inyo ha, but because Sir Marco just got me out of, just got me as an emergency lecturer. Okay? But anyways, I hope you had fun.
Ano, hindi magra-ration sa kanila, sir?
Ikaw na. Oh, sige. Ano ba yan? Walang pang load ang Genshin. Kakainis ka, Sir Marco. But anyways, I'm so happy that I got to share some of my tips and tricks to you guys. Favor naman, pwede ba tayong mag-picture class? Ganyan lagi ang ginagawa ko eh. Magpakita na ba kayong lahat? Tama ba yan na hindi kayo nagpapakita class? Ayan. O diba yung mga noon nyo pakitaas? Ayoko makita yung mga noon ninyo. Smile ka naman, Peter, dyan. Lang kayo. Nakabusamot ka dyan. Ano ba yan? Ako yung kulang ng tulog, Peter, ha? Bakit parang ikaw yung pagod?